Clear, or at least some of your questions clear. So I'll try to ask a question of each panel participant. Hopefully I'll manage to do so. But if you have an urgent question, don't hesitate and try to make things clear for you, because eHealth is a very, very complicated subject. So I would like to introduce you our panelists. So first of all, I think you can give a round of applause afterwards. So Šarūnas Narbutas is the head of patient organization POLA, or Pagalbos onkologiniams ligoniams asociacija, and he's a former advisor to the Lithuanian president on legislative issues. Then Audrius Darmanavičius is the advisor of the Minister of Health on eHealth issues. Sasha Reif, as you know, is the president of EJD. Then Ponas Sabalienė, is the head of the insurance fund, the Valstybinės ligonių kasos. Then Kristina Karalienė is the vice minister of health and head of the Lithuanian eHealth board in the Ministry of Health. Peter Ross, as you know, is our friend from Estonia who's moving forward with eHealth there. Paulius Gradeckas is the advisor to the Prime Minister at the Office of the Government of the Republic of Lithuania, and he's covering eHealth, NGOs, and youth policy.
General health.
And general health, yeah. Sorry. And Artur Novik is the eHealth architect from Estonia. Professor Laimonas Griškevičius is one of the few senior doctors who's really interested in this issue, and he's heading the Center of Hematology in Vilnius University Hospital Santaškių klinikos. Romualdas Kizlaitis is the director of Informatics and Development Center of the in Vilnius University Hospital Santaros klinikos, and of course Martinas, you all know. So please give a big round of applause. Most of the panel discussionists are members of the eHealth board, the policy-making organ within the Ministry of Health. Well, working, I guess, in their interest and to represent these various institutions and organizations. So we are very glad that since this year the eHealth board was reformed, and as you've heard, not much of a doctor's involvement was there before. Hospitals were represented, but doctor organizations, unfortunately, not that much. And patients' organizations have not been represented previously. So, for my first question, I would like to begin with Šarūnas and ask him, what major problems do you see in the current eHealth solutions in Lithuania, and what are the expectations of patients there?
Hey, hello everyone. It's nice to be here again for the one study that's we're in Transform second edition, so I'm very, very glad to be back. So you're here seeing us who should be able to answer the questions on what is the future of eHealth, and you should challenge us on that. And I think it's only one eHealth board member who is not present here today, so it's the head of the Centro Poliklinikos, who I know is on vacation right now. But now to your question, so what are the challenges? So the challenges, I believe that now we are lagging 10 years behind of where we thought we should be. And when you saw a map of Estonia, when they introduced the e-prescription, medical records, etc., it was 2005, 2007. It was at that time that Lithuania should have started, and you know there were projects ongoing, but they all ended up in disaster. And it's a further reiteration right now that we are explaining that it's picking up. So it's already a third attempt to make things right. So the challenges is that everyone in our country is really disappointed with the eHealth system because of a previous history, and it is very hard for us as who would still believe that it's a thing that Lithuania should be successful at then, to try to, I don't know, reinvent it, to reincarnate it or resurrect it, however you call it, because we're really struggling. And now where we are at, and when you are asking me as a patient, I think we are 10 years behind of where I think we should be going. So actually we're 20 years behind, because we are lagging just to go for the concept that was supposed to be there. And now because we have progressed, we're still thinking that we should implement things that are already outdated. So this is very hard as, we're chasing something that is so way back in the past. And as Lithuanians, you know that we want to be better than Estonians. So at the time they were creating this, we thought we will pick the best pieces of them and we will do something better, decentralized. Oh, wrong, guys. So you see how wrong it was. And now we're facing the consequences. So now we would be very glad just to copy the Estonian model. So no need to reinvent something and add upgrade of Lithuanian version. This is what we're doing. We actually try to copy what they did and we just step away of what we have been doing. Now, what is it that patients would want to see and that we don't have? There's two angles to that, and I don't want to take much of time. As you see, there's 10 people down the line for 55 minutes that we should cover. So what patients first want to see, and the major priority is the waiting list to the doctor. So electronic registration to the doctor. We have it as Serbu.lt, but it's not for all hospitals, and you should know that by law it will become mandatory as of January 1st, 2018 to register all patients in there. Are you thinking this will work? You should ask other guys. I have my doubts, but this is something that patients want to see. That I as a patient, given as right in Lithuania, that I can choose a healthcare institution that I want you to be treated and a healthcare professional, that this right should be enforced, and it's not. And it can only be enforced through IT measures. Then seeing your medical records, of course it is important. That of course you should be able to do so. And now I'm a patient of Santaros clinics, I'm also a patient of Central Polyclinics. I can see all of my records right here on mobile. It's not app, but I can have all my history, all my text on my mobile, so thanks for the developments in Santaros clinics. But I can bring them to the Central Polyclinics. And they have to double the tests and do the same thing. It's a lot of duplication and inefficiency. It's not rocket science to understand it. But there's still workaround, because how it works. I go to my doctor in Central Polyclinics, I open my record in my mobile and show them, and then you see that this has been done. But outside of that, it is still much more that you as a patient should be able to do. So we are right now able to see how much expenses were covered by National Health Insurance Fund, so valstybinės ligonių kasos, for us as individual patient in a given year. But we don't see it through any eHealth type of solution. We see it if we go to app paslaugos, as many other things, and you need to know where to look. Because in Lithuania we have so many e-services that we don't know that they are there. Because no one is branding them, we don't know what to look for, and then there's all of these validations that you don't have an ID card, etc. So thanks God for now having these generators that you can use the bank account just to connect and see the data. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because what we really want, we want the data that is hosted by National Health Insurance Fund for 20 years now, nearly 20 years, Sveidra, that data, that it relates to how many healthcare services were provided, what was paid, to pool it to the data that is in eHealth, and it's not there. These systems are not talking, this is wrong. And now I'm talking what we are constantly changing. What I want us to be, this is apps. I want apps. I want to see all of my data there. I want all my Endomodel, whatever I'm using, to pull it into app, and I can see it. Do you think it takes years to develop? No. We as patients, we already have this app. It's for free. It's actually doing the same thing that electronic health system is doing. I'm not telling this about my eHealth board with colleagues, because I think they would say, oh, it's after we're done with this, we can talk about it. But it doesn't matter, because after we are successful with this, and I believe we'll get there at the end of the day, the next big challenge will be interoperability. Do we speak with the systems? Are we able to integrate data which is not from these formal protocols coming out? And then we'll be having another big circle of discussions how to make things work. And we know now everyone is able to come up with solutions. You have startups developing apps. We as patients, we did it. And if you would remember the name, it's Andaman 7. The name doesn't really sound that good, but the lab is very good. So you can, it's also in Lithuanian, just go out and write. So you can upload all of your medical records, you can do teleconsultations, you can have all the data integrated of other apps in various store, allergies, prescriptions, etc. The good part, it is free of charge, it is not in cloud, it is peer-to-peer, it is super safe, and it's developed by patients. So this is something that I, as this year, in the previous event when I was sitting, I was saying our modus operandi in patient organizations is not just to sit and wait and complain and say that nothing is happening or just tag along. Because if we want to see the change, be the change, right? And we are doing it. We're not relying on the government, on other experts, on someone to fund it. There's always ways to make things work if you want to do it. But to summarize, what do you want as a patient to have, that you want that data, which is going somewhere, to be combined together, and that you can actually be able to use it and have ownership of that data. Not saying that you cannot use it because some other system crashed. So have your own pocket backup copy, and then you can use it. So I think I end here.
Yeah. Okay. So wow, it's very motivating. So I think my next question would follow then to the Vice Minister, Kristina Garuolienė. And well, I would like to delve onto the subject of moving the central system towards, from the central registry to VLK. Do you think that it is necessary to do this move in order to develop further the things that we have already in the IT sector of eHealth, and maybe there are any other solutions?
So a few years ago there was made mistake to establish our registered center not in the healthcare system but in Ministry of Justice. So what is going now? So when our main system as PBI is not working, so our clients, patients or physicians, they do not call to Justice Minister, they call to our minister, to Health Minister, and so in that case we sometimes are not able to influence them to something to change, to cope with problems. So I think it's necessary, and we will have to move our central system as PBI to health system. Now we hope to establish the system in the health insurance fund, and because health insurance fund has experience with working with similar system, Sveidra is health insurance administration system, and also have a lot of records and a lot of data of our patients. So I think that when we are talking about eHealth future, so sometimes we just a little bit have to think why we are creating this eHealth, and so sometimes it seems that what is the main user will be. Of course, patients are also very important, but I think the main user will have to be the physicians, because they will use the data from eHealth and will influence that our patients, will influence the quality of treatment of our patients, and of course will influence that we will live longer. And sometimes it seems that data are collected just to know, but they have to be used in the future, and then they will have influence on our health system. And I think that eHealth systems have to be in the system, not outside the system.
Okay, thank you very much. So a follow-up question to the head of the National Insurance Fund then. Here. In the end, we really need a person who would take responsibility for eHealth. So I guess the establishment of an eHealth architect position is necessary. But unfortunately, we as doctors usually participate in the market in Lithuania, but IT specialists, they can work anywhere from their place. It is very difficult to attract competent people to lead big projects. What do you think would be the answer? How can you attract good competent people to lead this position in Balkan?
I think before to answer your question, we need to know some other answers that are needed in general about the sustainable governance and management of e-health issues and system itself. And sustainable management and governance has to be supported by sustainable financing of the issues. And when we will know all the answers and the sharing of responsibilities and reporting, then of course we can distribute responsibilities and functions between different responsible implementers of e-health project. And at the moment, National Health Insurance Fund is looking for the best possibilities how to find additional finances to support e-health system. Because looking towards other countries, we see that most of our neighbors in EU, they share the financing responsibilities between different sources, and they usually do not rely on the one-type funding like structural funds or budget financing. In most cases, they involve as much as possible financial resources, including social health insurance contributions. And if to speak about the action of good specialists having comprehensive knowledge that are necessary for the architecture of e-health, I think at the moment Lithuania has a better position than it used to have, as after implementation of some legal acts in social care sector, there's more flexibility to offer better salary for such persons, as we know that they are very much required in e-health service market. So I think when we will have the full scope of the functions, the terms of reference for the architect, it will be not the major problem to find the right person.
Thank you very much for the answer. So, I think the following question then will be asked for an advice of our Estonian colleagues. Artur Novik, the eHealth architect, the same position in Estonia. So, Artur, do you think that there are any risks in putting the eHealth architect's position under the health insurance fund? Or maybe I presented you the current model that there are three main decision makers, or the eHealth board, competence center, and the eHealth architect. Do you think there are any flaws in this kind of arrangement?
My opinion is that let that person work in competence center as the one member of the team, able to decide the IT stuff and talk to other organizations, IT people. Could be separate, he will be a bit alone, maybe then. So he has to have all the other staff supporting him with the knowledge, with the juridical problems maybe. So there has to be standards, development team, the juridical lawyers in this competence center. So other different kinds of people need to be there around the system to make it work really. And this one member of the bigger team, but with good sense of humor and then good communication skills, he can manage to talk with other organizations and make the things happen.
Okay, thank you for your response. So I guess my follow-up question would be to Professor Griškevičius. So we've presented the view of junior doctors and patients. Maybe these are the more motivating pieces of society. you as a senior physician, what problems do you see in eHealth, and anything in particular perhaps that has not been mentioned? Or
Thank you. Well, actually, Šarūnas presented eHealth situation in Lithuania as completely hopeless. I would say it's uneven. If you go to probably some smaller hospitals or healthcare institutions, they don't have any probably facilities or maybe even a computer, and they are completely working with paper. But if you go to major hospitals like our hospital, so we are essentially in our center we're paperless. We don't write anymore on paper. We should do it everything electronically, and we can also work not only in hospital but outside hospital, connected to the hospital, and this is what we do every day. So essentially, and all the data on the patients are available to the doctors, at least in our center, and for many years now. So, as with our patients, they actually have access to the eHealth if they are patients at Santaros Clinicos, and actually a few years ago we put all their medical records online for them to see, and for us, for doctors, it was impossible to work because they saw every word that we wrote in their case histories, and at that point we got millions of questions about why you wrote this, why you wrote that, and this and that, and then we understood that most of what we write to other doctors, not to the patients. So then we restricted to some discharge letters, essential data that they see, so that they can understand, and also that in the way that at least part of it is written in a way that a patient understands. So I would say that it's uneven in Lithuania, and there are very good examples, of course, very poor examples, and one of the poorest is in communication of the data among the physicians with the central system. That essentially it's a very poor construct, I would say. And maybe Šarūnas has mentioned also that maybe it should be peer-to-peer, so we don't need a centralized system. So everyone has a mobile device, so they can see all their data. So why we should have a centralized device? If there are apps, we can exchange the data. But of course, this is another way to look at it. So I would say that there are good examples, poor examples, and we need to make. Now we need to work more systematically with all the stakeholders, and starting with all the. Also the laws should be in place that govern the signatures, electronic signatures, how it's done. Then it may start to have a positive effect.
Thank you. So one more question is about the role of the current national infrastructure in eHealth. As you saw, Estonia has an X-road, has a national identification, and since they already have e-voting and other facilities going on, it was easier to build on that up. So I think we don't know much about the current strategies of the government, but it seems that they're heading towards centralization. So I would like to ask the advisor to the Prime Minister, Paulius Gradeckas, what is the role of the current infrastructure for eHealth now? And maybe we're doing a mistake by moving eHealth from registry center to health insurance fund. If, for example, 2 or 3 years later, the government will decide to centralize everything once again. So, what's your opinion?
Well, I'm glad you asked what's my opinion, because not yet no decisions are made. Good morning, everyone, once again. So, from the cycles of economics, we all know that when the economics grows, then there are always the feeling that we have to decentralize everything, and when then we strike the recession, then it comes the centralization. And in the history of Lithuania, we saw already 2 major economic crises, well, although we have in an upper branch of economic growing right now, but we have to make strategies what we will do tomorrow and 1 year after, and maybe 5 years after. Answering your question, probably there is a big need of consolidation, but the health system within the systems will stay crucial. So I guess no matter where the heart would be placed, but the system will stay independent and very crucial. Well, that's my answer.
Okay, thank you. So then maybe asking Professor Ross, I guess what do you think that Lithuania can learn more from the Estonian experience? Now you saw our situation. What would be your advice for us, learning from what you have pitfalls on?
Right. First of all, Lithuania is. We have to appreciate this, that Lithuania is very advanced IT country. So this is, you can argue that this or that is not working, but you know, a lot of good things are there. Looking at the hospitals, then we were yesterday in Santero Hospital, now world class, no doubt. I really haven't seen much better systems. Then further on, and now if the figures what you presented with us, that there are 30% of prescriptions issued in electronic form. Is this really true?
Oh, this is what the data that I got from Lithuania.
So this means that you are in the phase of, or actually point of no return, because 1/3 of patients have electronic prescriptions already. They start to be used of that, and if they now don't buy this idea, then there will be after 5 years next fourth round trying to implement eHealth. You're really in the very far already, if this is true what you presented. Then, and this, in my opinion, it's very critical situation right now, because there is e-prescription quite far. Central system is working, and as we have seen, then there are a lot of troubles with central system. So again, now it's a very short time period to make decisions. I think you put on the screen the steps what should be taken. I think I have nothing to add. It's the same mantra: governance, legal clarity, standards. Access rights, but you have everything there. The hard thing now is to make decisions, to steer the ferry to the right, or keep actually ferry on the right direction. So you are really far. I don't know, Artur, would you like to comment on this? But I haven't seen any country being so far with several e-health developments. If you look at the Finland or Sweden or Netherlands, they take one step by step, implementing one thing, then looking what happens. Now you are very in a very good situation, I would say.
Okay, sounds motivating. Do you have anything to add? Or?
If you have problems with IT and too many controls from the different stakeholders to data, remove them a bit. Yeah, remove them. Because maybe I said that this is disadvantage that we have low quality data, but it's there. And if the person can look at it, even if it's sometimes free text, not coded data, or if there is, I don't know, doesn't exist referral, but there is a referral answer, go for it. Have the data in, have the people using that, and then going, maybe controlling the processes, controlling the data quality, and that's on what we are now doing. But start with it, really, and use it, and push the IT people to remove a bit the controls there.
I see. So we have an urge to lower the controls, and better to have some data than that is better to have most of the data rather than some data with a very good quality. But Šarūnas had a comment on that as well.
Yeah, thank you. As I'm being quoted as the one that believes it's hopeless, before I say it, well, at the end of the day we'll make it. I want just also to clarify on the point that yes, we have some great systems, and what we have a big amount of systems, and we have a big amount of processes. The problem is it's not being used by majority of stakeholders, by the healthcare institutions, etc. So it's not good just to have something in place with technically it works, but it's not convenient, or for some other reasons it's not being shared. And as a practical example, yes, the Santariškės HIS system is great. Why can't we use it for all hospitals? Because they say, no, we won't give it to you for free. And that starts there. When they have all of their medical records out there, and they should be sharing it to the central system, but they are not. Why? I haven't heard a good explanation for that. So in practice we have it, but at the end of the day, as a patient, as a doctor in other hospital, they don't see it. As we see about other hospitals, private entities that are creating so, and you saw it in the Rytis map that he voluntarily did. It was not someone that did it as the stakeholders or as a part of the activities that they are paid to do. So now we see there is a majority of products out there. What is the problem is that they need to be used and they need to be shared. And when some hospital is saying, I want to use your system AI, they should say, yes, please, because then we will advance. And if they are just keeping in their own silos and saying, my product is better, and I will show you, but don't look at their product. This is not something that we are doing it, because at the end of the day, this is often that I see in Lithuania, there is a lack of appreciation by hospitals that they are not private entities, they are owned by the state. That means taxpayers, as me, as a patient, as you, as a doctor, who also have interest to tell that they are not the products that are created of their private money. It's the public money that they got EU funding for, all the fundings for, and have been maintaining and excelling. They can get credits for doing it very good and keep developing, but not, if you are not letting it being used, then we are stuck into now finding a new solution that would start from scratch, and then it would be used by all stakeholders. So it shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't need to create all of the other stuff at the way. But regarding of that, what Estonian colleagues are saying, yes, we are far advanced, and because we are far advanced with IT systems that we can park via apps, that we can book everything online, that we can use our bank accounts from the mobile, we don't understand why can't we do same for our health-related matters.
So I think a good follow-up question here to ask for a response from Mr. Valdis. Maybe you can have different comments.
Thank you. Actually, my first comment to Santaros Klinikos information system, we created it many years ago, and we got support from European funds for develop it. And it's not true that we are not sharing our system, and we say every hospital that they can take for free, and there are examples who did it, who did that.
National Cancer Institute?
This is the last, maybe my colleague will comment that, but like even Alytus hospital and many polyclinics have taken it for free. We just say that we can give it for free, but we cannot implement it by ourselves. Don't have money, so you have to invest money yourself in order to have it, because it's getting software for free. This is very it's just the first step. You need to invest your own money and get resources, human resources, and etc. Can I continue with the eHealth? Our eHealth system actually has some advanced features, like fire protocol, for example, which is a little bit one step more advanced than even in Estonia. But I think the problem of our system development was that at the beginning, we have got too much money for architecture and for consultations, etc. And we actually theoretically built a model which is too difficult and too expensive to maintain for a country like Lithuania. And all hospitals and doctors are not prepared actually for data collection centrally. So we always have to distinguish data and information. And actually, I think that the first importance is for doctors to exchange information, to get in time discharge letter, maybe some report. So this is the most important, information first. Data is also very important, as I deal a lot with scientists, and they require more and more structured data. But this is the second step, and we also can solve it in many different ways now, using deep learning and many other technologies. But first of all, I think is information. And even, for example, for e-prescription, why prescription is so difficult to write? Because it's in this just writing the e-prescription is involved too many processes. So my advance, my wish is to make our system as simple as possible and keep it going on, not destroy it. Regarding movement from register center to insurance fund, this could be an option. Yes, this is closer to the health system. But my opinion is that the best way would be to have an independent organization under the Ministry of Health with full responsibilities on all results.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a bit of a different approach. But you also mentioned that keep it simple. So, of course, I live in Vilnius and I work in Santaros clinics, and I use the ELI system. I like most of the features there, and of course, I can access all patients' data. When it's a bit of a different story in Estonia. Estonia has restricted access to specific patient data, right? How does it work there? I mean, I guess physicians don't have the access to patient data unless they have a treatment relation, right? Petros.
Thanks. Now we have to distinguish between two functions. One is using EMR in your hospital setting. There is the rules are exactly the same as here. You can see everything in the electronic medical record of this particular hospital. So law is not regulating this more than on the paper files. Concerning the central system, the query made from the electronic medical record to the central system, then you are absolutely correct. The law says that physician can query patient data only in case she or he has treatment relation. So, and this is logged and followed very strictly. Patient, him or herself, as you saw, has access to logs. So if there is any wrongdoing, patient can see that, for instance, doctor who appears to be neighbor has looked at my data and have no any treatment relations. This is unlawful behavior. One additional moment I would like to add here, the law says also that the physician can close data from the patient up to 6 months, which means that this is something what we discussed today also, that not everything should be disclosed at the moment when it is written down. But in case of hesitation that you still don't want to share your thoughts or diagnosis with patient, 6 months is a fair period by the law.
I see. So another question to you then is that there's a philosophical discussion. Who owns the data? Actually, it's quite practical. In Estonia, who's the owner?
There is no philosophical discussion.
Yeah, okay.
Person owns the data. I own my data.
Okay, what about in Lithuania? Who owns the data in Lithuania? I mean, can you answer the question?
Well, I guess according to the law, holder, which holds the holder in
the holder. So the holder in this case
is the state or the Ministry of Health.
The Ministry of Health. So we have a substantial difference in the view. Do you think, or can
I comment?
Yeah.
Actually, I would say that patients are the owners of the data in Lithuania as well, because every patient can come to the hospital and acquire his data. So he's an owner actually. But the documents itself, the documents is a legal paper.
You cannot take the documents from the system.
Yes, you cannot take the documents from the system. So the document stays in the place they are generated.
Well, I think that we need a lawyer here, but everyone can delete his or her data from everywhere. And I don't think that we have a specific law on this very issue. Maybe in Estonia you have it clearly written who owns the data and what is done, but we have general laws. So the general data protection laws say that we can delete any data or restrict any data. So I doubt that this is, you are right that this is the owner is the ministry and so on and so forth, but everyone can tell the owner what they want to do with their data. I'm sorry, I'm not, of course I'm not a lawyer, but in general what I understand, this is how the system works.
EU has made this thing actually for us quite easy, because from the May of next year there will be in force also here and in Estonia, all over EU, new data protection regulation. So there is very clearly written that doesn't matter who collects person's data, person has the right to have these data and in the electronic form in machine readable way. So this will be, and this is recognized now all over Europe, that this is huge issue in the future, that we should be prepared. And Estonia is not also prepared for that, to copy data from the electronic health record to USB, what the person can read with, I don't know, Word or Linux programs. So this is very clearly regulated by EU directive. Actually, it's not directive but regulation, but it's the same as directive. And this will be enforced next May.
Wow. Okay. So I guess data protection is another issue that's generally not that much discussed, I guess, in our society. But we just had a problem with one private clinic where there was a leakage of patient data. Are we safe in public hospitals, actually? Is our data safely locked there? Also, I would like to ask Romas Kazlaitis.
It's a difficult question. I would say that our digital data is much more secure than our paper data. This first of all. Because in our information systems, at least they know we log, we track who access data, and this makes some discipline on the use of data. But we always meet this conflict, between from one side our goal is to to make data accessible, so that we can access it quickly where we need it. So in our hospital, we give access for our doctors to access our system from anywhere in the world with VPN. So this, of course, lowers the security in some way. From another side, we have to make it secure. So we always balanced between security and accessibility. Of course, this regulation, what Professor Ross mentioned, this also touches us very, very much. And to fulfill the requirements of this regulation, we need additional money, or we have to close, or we have to restrict access more and more. So I would say that our systems in Lithuania, not even our lean system, but also our systems are more or less secure. And those systems which are officially registered as information systems, and you know that only officially registered information systems can join, can be integrated with the SPBI. So all the systems are more or less regulated and they are protected. So I'm optimistic.
Okay, thank you. So you mentioned about the funds that needed to be allocated. When we viewed the slides of our Estonian colleagues, I think the numbers were a lot less there for the implementation of national projects. Is there anything to it? I mean, are the numbers comparable between Lithuania and Estonia? Maybe I think it was the slides of Artem.
The slides hide a bit the money which hospitals had to invest, and actually we don't know. No one counted that, but it's huge money, I guess. So it has to be there actually, and then taken into account. The local developments are the local developments are expensive, and you should know actually and calculate that too. It's actually quite the same if you are calculating it together for the central parts, what I feel, but we are using it.
Okay, so to be clear, the numbers are lower, but not without the reason. So the hospital information system developments are not counted there, and as you saw in Lithuania, these amounted to the biggest amounts of money. Yes, please.
May I comment, because there was a question why well-developed electronic systems are not given away to other hospitals. From one hospitals who have, say, Santaros Klinikos has a good system, why we don't give it away? So actually, one thing is that publicly held hospitals like Santaros Klinikos would not take a license from any other hospitals, would give it away. But the problem is that, and we have here also the representatives of the government, so each and every hospital must understand that healthcare, eHealth must have a budget. And this budget may run up to 5% of budget in the well-developed systems. And if you take the budget of Santaros Klinikos, which is around 150 million euro, you can see how much money you need to sustain the system. So when any hospital wants to take something free of charge, they must understand that they need funds to sustain it, to implement it and run the system. And that's a lot of money. And the government also must understand that they must fund it. So that's my comment.
Okay, Jaunųjų.
Not contradicting what was said this time, okay? But on the slide what Artur Novak presented, not about decentralized implementation, but he had a number of how much e-prescription cost development of that. That was 200,000. I don't remember others, but you said 4 million in total. So for these centralized solutions, we spent 20 plus million. So it's 5 times more for the centralized solutions. You can just look at what was e-prescription, 1.3 million, I think like that. So it is, of course, a lot of optimization could have happened. We haven't learned from Estonian experience that they implemented it before and they showed the cost, and now we don't really need to reinvent the wheel. It was actually part of the same team that developed your system that also helped in Lithuania, only part of them, because it's big teams, separate projects. But we, of course, in Lithuania, we like to have bigger projects, right? Who doesn't? And that shows the amount of what, it's also efficient control of the money that is allocated. It was not there. And now when it's being said that, yes, it's true that IT systems, we are saying 5% is needed to obtain. It's just from 10% to 20%. It's this over time. It's on average from 10 to 20% of the cost that of creation, that is upkeep cost on a yearly basis, right? So in 5 years or up to 10 years, you will need to have the same cost that you had to create the system. So according to that logic, if our projects were bigger, if they costed more to create in the beginning, they will be costing more to obtain as well. So we also need to rationalize on that level, and no one has really compared those. But I would just urge you to look into that slide of Artino. I actually have it in here. I got a chance to make a photo of that. So, and to compare with Lithuanian numbers.
Okay, thank you. Now, a question to Sasha. You're hearing what problems we deal with in Lithuania at the moment. You know the Estonian experience. How is it? How can we compare it to other countries, to Western European countries? Are they much more developed, or maybe they have different approaches and different views of eHealth?
So first of all, everyone has problems. So there's no country which, if you had to ask any country which will, you know, if we had to represent all the countries here with us, so who has no problems with eHealth? No one would raise their hand. So there are issues everywhere, and no system is perfect. And even where there are systems which are more developed, you will have more complicated issues arising there as well. I mean, I can speak, for example, from my experience in Malta. And when I see what you have already set up in your countries, I mean, Malta is even further behind than that. And whilst you have a plan of moving forward, we are still developing that plan. So we have some things in place, like the digital archiving of the pictures, laboratory information, but for example, we have absolutely no electronic medical records in Malta. And in Europe, it's a heterogeneous picture, so there are some obviously which are more advanced and some which are less advanced. But I can assure you that no system is perfect, and they're having these discussions similar to this one everywhere else as well.
Okay, I see. Yes, please.
We might reflect a bit on what colleague said, and the colleague from Estonia also asked. The question was that Lithuania has achieved already something, and why we are complaining that much. So I would like to reflect to both that with a joke, that Lithuanians are very good about to complain, and not as good as Estonians to be happy even with the small things. So we were very happy to find even a small thing and to complain, and then the best thing would be to blame someone. So looking towards young faces, I'm so happy to see you, and I really would like to believe that you are the future, that they would manage to move forward all the issues, eHealth and other issues related to our country, with a bit of a different approach. That, okay, we do things, it might be that we make some mistakes, then we analyze, evaluate, and move forward together. Not complaining and blaming, but trying to find the right solutions.
Thank you. Martinas, you have a...
All right. It's always nice to participate in a panel together with Sharunas, because I don't sound that blunt, you know, in comparison. Right. So I just wanted to comment on why all the fuss from the junior doctors came about the eHealth. And everything starts with an emotion, right? In trustable professional activities, they started with an emotion. And our activity in the eHealth, it also started with an emotion. The face of that emotion is standing up right now, and it all began when he switched from one hospital to another, and then he saw what kind of differences there are, right? In one hospital, that you have to fill everything, you know, you have to repeat, and then there's so much there in paper, and then you go 100 kilometers to one direction, and everything changes, right? And then when looking at we are the digital generation, right? Everything we have here, the banks, the Facebook, everything. We can get the tickets, we can get the food out, we can get everything with our phones. But then when you're put in conditions, when you kind of do anything similar like that, and when you're trying to help the patient, it really gets you frustrated. And this is what I want to communicate to the people that are sitting here, because this is the majority of the eHealth board of Lithuania. We did not get into medicine, and we didn't sign for 10 years of study, and for work environments that are stressed enough because we have to deal with death and disease and with the relatives of the patients and everything. It's pretty stressed out. And then when you're put into conditions when you can't even order blood tests via electronically, then it really gets you mad, and it gets you mad to some point that you start thinking that you hate medicine. At least for some of us. I mean, the work conditions really changed the face of medicine that we see, because we got into medicine because we want to help the patients. We wanted to excel ourselves. We want to express ourselves. And then when this does not happen, the healthcare workforce, and Sasha named the workforce, it's really unpleasant. We talk about the dissatisfaction of the medical community. We talk about the high immigration rates. It's not all about the wages. It's also about the working conditions that we're working in with. And the junior doctors, they really see the eHealth as the future of health in Lithuania. So this is that. And I just wanted to get your focus onto that. This is not just 250 people looking at you. Because we are the future, we know that. This is not a problem. When there's going to be transform number 24, we will be the decision makers. But you are the current decision makers. It is up in your hands. And 250 people are looking at you to make the right decisions. And there's more, there are hundreds more, there's thousands more looking at you on what kind of decisions you will make that will affect the way we work. And we want you to make our lives better so that we can make the lives of our patients better.
Can we push the Zephyr for 10 more minutes? Yeah?
Okay, so we're pushing the Zephyr for 10 more minutes, and I'm asking for your questions actually. If you have any urgent questions or maybe something that's not clear about eHealth, don't hesitate. Don't be shy. So when we went to Estonia, we went together with the advisor of the Minister of Health. And we were very glad that he joined us. We went by car and he flew together. He flew directly to Tallinn. So, when you became an advisor and now, do you feel the difference? Are things changing?
Things in health sector, I think, changes because we changed, first of all, board members, some involved junior doctors in the board of eHealth, and as I see, the situation is not so bad because eHealth system in Lithuania accelerate. The system is growing of usage, and recipe grow it from 10% to 30%. Some separate hospitals show it very big growing from, for example, Klaipėda University Hospital started at 5% and now showing 70%. So I think what we are in the right way, but we faced some problems, some issues, and we must solve those bottlenecks, such as qualified signature, and we must improve our systems. We have 3 general systems like Santa. I think it is one of the best. And we have 2 another systems, and we must be improved. And in my opinion, that all improvements must be done like pay one time. For example, Kauno Klinikos has the same system like another 11 hospitals, and we must pay one time, and all improvements make in all these IT solutions.
Yeah.
So I hope transparency in the system, because it was needed. And another issue is to have IT architect, man which can told us the special how to solve special problems, and we got some specialists for free because they said we wouldn't work for such a salary as we can offer. So so I think what we are in a good way, but just we faced another problem of our programming code. We're using the new product looking worldwide, and our data exchange standard FIR or FIRE is duplicated with data, and now we have very big issue how to optimize the code. And I think what when we solve together those two bottlenecks, our system will be perfect. And IT solution, first of all, what I think, but IT solution must reduce the time of work, like banking systems. Everything must be optimized and logical. So thank you for help and work together.
Thank you very much. So we've heard that IT solutions are very important, that some things are duplicated, and perhaps there is a room for an IT guy in the eHealth board. What do you think, Arthur? Is it necessary to have IT guys in the board?
No.
Okay.
We actually had in the board the people from Ministry of Economic Affairs and also from State Information Agency. So we bring them on board too. Yeah, let them be there.
Okay.
Then you have to blame someone.
I see. So when we have an eHealth architect, perhaps Petros, do you have any other opinions? No, okay. He agrees. So, if there are any questions from the audience? No? Yeah.
Yes, I have a question for our Estonian colleagues. So, from what I understand, you also have in Estonia a two-tier system. You have your internal hospital system and a centralized one. Maybe you know of any examples where there is just one single centralized solution. So, for example, if we take some Santaros Klinikos LA system and make it nationwide.
From Europe, I can name Basque country. They have really centralized system. Basque country is part of Spain.
Still part of Spain.
No, it's not Catalonia, it's Basque country. And they have around 2 million inhabitants. And they started from scratch, and that's why I think they were quite good in implementing this. Another worldwide known example is Kaiser Permanente, which is health plan in the States. They have around 10 million insured people, and they are using one Epic system. Epic is very well known and really also implemented now in Europe in certain hospitals. The drawback with so centralized systems is that they appear to be very, very expensive. Kaiser Permanente spent $8 billion US during 10 years to implement it. South Finland is going to buy Epic for 540 million euros. So, and you will be in vendor lock. I would say that Romas will make you vendor lock, but still the market should have something to say there as well.
Okay, so I think we're getting hungry, are we? Okay, so just to sum up, I'm not the best one, I'll allow Martina to do that as well, but I would like to end on a note that actually we see things changing and to the positive side. And we as junior doctors are very thankful for having us, for inviting us to be a part of the eHealth board. And also we're extremely happy to have patients there because, as Peter said, it's essential to have those who are using the system being amongst the stakeholders and the decision makers. So really thank you for allowing us to, and for hearing our voice. And I really hope that together we will try to work and push eHealth forward. And when we meet in 2025, I guess we will have totally different issues. I think I said it on camera, so you can show me this video some 7 years later.